All right, Kelsey. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Mr. Rogers used to say that. Did you ever watch Mr. Rogers?
It's actually a little snowy in the neighborhood today. And yes, I love Mr. Rogers.
I complained all morning. About the weather, and then I said I do because I seen a guy the other day was talking about what he done before he went to sleep. He done a gratitude prayer.
Yeah.
What he's grateful for. And I said, well, I'm thankful I got heat in my house. I'm thankful I got my truck runs. And
I've always heard doing it in the morning. I guess you do it at night because you make sure you're not grateful for nothing that went wrong during the day. You really earned it by the nighttime.
One thing I want to talk about, gifted people are often misunderstood.
I feel that way also.
Okay. And I know I could talk to you about this, okay? And I don't know if you, as my daughter, I don't deal into your home life. That's one thing I'm really big on. Okay, the reason why is I never want to have to take responsibility for you again.
Yeah.
So I don't deal into it. If you and your husband are fighting in the yard, fist fighting and stuff.
That's usually how we do it. We don't usually fight in private. We usually make sure there's an audience. That way we can get, am I right or is he right opinions.
Right. But your mom and I, we didn't share a lot of our marital problems with you kids because we tried to create a home type atmosphere, something that was welcoming.
Homey.
But we had problems. And this morning, for example, okay? Now I try to be nice and courteous, but it comes off as being a smart aleck.
Because usually you kind of are. Hey, you usually try to hide that under there.
All right, let me give you the scenario.
Yeah, give me the scenario.
So this morning.
See, this is what I was talking about. You do it in public, that way you can get am I right or they right opinions.
So this morning, okay, I leave her plenty of time to get ready. I tell her, go get ready, honey. Take time, and you go in there, and I sit down. I'm in the living room and stuff like that. And I said, are you ready yet? Yeah, I'm ready. I said, so I go in there, and she says, let me just put my curling iron here, and let me just do this there, and I'll move over to the side of the sink. I said, honey, I have a ritual that I go through, and I follow a system and a pattern. And well, she says, you don't have to be a smart aleck about it. I said, honey, I'm not trying to be well, don't be old poor pitiful me, she says. And I said, honey, I'm not being old poor pitiful me. I'm just saying, and she says, well, why don't you tell me, just get the heck out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, get the heck out of the bathroom. Then all of a sudden, I'm a smart aleck, okay?
See, I think that's why the way me and Andrew speak, we are very crass. If I'm move out of my way, and he'll say the same thing to me. We don't have those problems. There's no oh, you're being no. We outright say, get the heck out of my way. I need in there, or you're in my way. You're bugging me. I need some space here.
See, I try to be courteous. I try to be courteous, but I'm older, and I say, I'm trying to be courteous to you, honey. Well, why don't you just and then she goes in there, but anyway, I just think it's where I'm gifted. And I'm misunderstood.
Yeah, I feel like that a lot. Yeah, I guess that's why I try to explain myself, because I'm also gifted and misunderstood. I try to help the others understand me better. Maybe that's what it is. It's the curse of the gifted.
We're supernatural people living in a common world.
Really are. Me and Andrew have this joke. He calls me and you sandpaper people, because how they say you got to have grit to make it through. Right. We are the grit. We don't have to make it through. We smooth down anything around us so we can do what we need to do. We're sandpaper people.
It makes sense to me. Sometimes I'll solve a problem, okay, and it'll be like I had a technical problem the other day, and I got a hold of the people that I work with in Canada, and I got a hold of these other people, and they started asking me all these stupid questions, and I said, I've already answered all those questions in the first email, and then so I just went and took it on myself, and I found the issue with what was going on and fixed it.
Yeah.
And I told your mom, I said, the only thing I worry about is one day I may just sprout wings and fly away.
It's just going to happen.
I said, the gift is hard to hide.
I tell Andrew all the time, it's so hard being right all the time. It's just such a burden. What is it like to just be wrong? I don't know. I wouldn't know. It's just all the time.
You should ask him what it's like to be a normal person.
I don't understand. Just tell me what it's like. What is it like for you mortals on Earth?
What is that?
Well, these are the things I'm right about. For an example, we were in Ohio this weekend, okay? Blizzard, Snowmageddon happening.
Right.
He wanted to go to the golf course to hit on the simulator.
Right.
I told him they're probably going to be closed because there's 1 billion feet of snow and ice out there. No. out.
Yeah.
Sure enough, we get on Facebook and it's closed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm right about a lot of common sense things, but it still feels supernatural because it was so shocking to him.
Well, and the town we were in was under a stage 3
Everything was closed.
blizzard alert, and they're getting ready. We're going to go play golf at the golf sim. And I'm thinking, how are you going to do that?
I mean, it's inside, but still, you have to get to the inside, and you could not. Everything was closed. McDonald's was closed. Even Walmart was closing early.
See, that's when that happens. You better get ready. The Lord is coming back.
I said, Ohio's closed. We're leaving. And we did through a blizzard.
I was thinking about stages of life your mom and I have been through in our marriage and careers and things like that. And all 3 of you children have grew up in different, I've done over 100 interviews. And most of the people I've interviewed said, I think somebody should interview you, but I really couldn't think of anybody other than you. But I think about the stages that we've come through of work and things like that. And you grew up in one stage of our life, and Morgan grew up in the restaurant stage.
Yeah,
okay, when we had restaurants, and Colson sort of got the in between.
I'm the reason the restaurant's closed,
right.
so I'm sorry if you like them.
He tagged a little bit of the restaurants. He said, but he I don't know what, he was sort of an all he grew up in a little bit
That's
of all
the middle
of them.
Child thing. He's sort of there and it all.
And but you mainly grew up in the television stage of this whole thing, of our of what we've done and what we've done. And it's really, when you think about the things that and we think about it as normal, but when you think about the things that you've done, I mean, I don't know how old you were. I don't remember how old you were, 12, 13, or whatever it was.
I just always.
You had a live TV program on the air 3 days a week.
Yeah.
A live TV program. And, I mean.
Before the live, though, I had, I used to read stories.
Right.
So I had that program before that. And even more before the live, I did one with Connie, Extraordinary People.
Right.
So I had those filming before I ever went live. Live was the easy, because I didn't have to think about it. Live was you're on, go, you're doing it now. And that's how I woke up in the morning and I did a live program, then I filmed a live program, and then I did school.
Right.
Like, that was normal.
Just normal. You didn't think about it. I mean, it's really so, when you think about those things that you did, and we look at it like it was just a normal situation.
Yeah.
That's like Colson down on the forklift at 12 or 13 or whatever he was.
Or whenever Melvin used to have to put boxes on it for me to be on the forklift because I couldn't hold it down.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you kids were raised in that atmosphere. You were raised feeding 45 ministries in a week.
Yeah.
And food loading over 3 million pounds a year, and then TV stations. And at one point in this, I had over 100 TV stations. And when you think about I don't know, man, that's just a wild. It's a wild run.
It's so normal, I can't think of the alternative.
Right.
And like, even when I was going to have kids, I never wanted Carter to have a normal childhood. I wanted to pack as much in weird as I could, because that's just how we are. I mean, and that's what he does too. He comes out here and films with you. You think there's any other 13-year-old filming,
Yeah.
I don't want a normal childhood. I didn't want a normal childhood. It was normal to me, but once I got older, I could look back and I'd be like, y'all was kind of lame. You were at school for 8 hours? Like, that's terrible. You weren't filming commercials when you were 16? What are you talking about? Like,
I think about that. I talk about Morgan, where she used to, go with Bobby and Sheila.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. She'd done all that production work and done all that filming out there with him on the road agains, and that was a big thing to do. And how you kids have all come up in these stages and parts of this. That's and she the other day was talking about doing the filming and production with all that, and I've got all those programs. And this is the thing. I'll say this on the record. I do not expect you kids to keep all the video that I have done, because it's so crazy. Because from 92, everything was recorded.
Yeah.
Everything in my life been recorded.
I remember when we would come to the studio and just to clean or do things, Mama used to set us up music and would record us just dancing around in there while they worked. We have hours of that just nonsense.
I think about that. But when you think about that part of your life, and you think about now, I mean, what flavor it gave you. It gave you all these experiences, life experiences that were just fascinating.
Nobody else had those. I mean, I remember going out and hunting down commercials, before I was even 18, having to go cold calling, going into businesses and being like, do you want a commercial? That really made me have to And as much as I seem like an extroverted person, I really am like, oh, I have to talk to people. So, but it made me do it, and I knew how to do it. And I loved filming. But more than even being on, I was always on TV more than anyone because Morgan didn't want to do it. Colson was not going to be, so you had me. I was the one you put in front of the camera the most, but I loved editing the most. Like, I love editing videos. And it came from that. I remember even learning how to do like little different things with the cameras. I was like, watch out, y'all. I just liked it. I got to learn that without. That's what Colson went to college, and it was for, I forget everything, but it was for broadcasting and filming. I forget what I would call it, but I remember Colson being like, I know all this. I knew all this when I was like 16. What are we doing? I was like, I didn't want to say anything, but I couldn't imagine what they were going to teach you didn't already know. Like,
he still falls back on a lot of things when we talk about stuff. And we were out here working the other night, and he said, I sure miss this. He said, because he a real big part of the backbone of what we did was from him. He done
Colson did a lot of the behind the scenes. He was a lot more of the like programming and things like that than I was. There was stuff he did that I was like, what are you talking about? And then it'd become to working a camera, and he'd be like, what are you doing? But, we all had our expertise in it. There was a lot he did.
When I talked to him,
I lugged him around with me for cameras filming. I did the Lost and Found for the animal shelter, and I was like, Colson, we're going, let's film.
And he's always been right in there in the middle of that. And I think about the times that, if I talked about putting Morgan on camera, she would fall out on the ground. She is
like
not.
She wouldn't just be good at it.
She just absolutely would have a heart attack. She would.
I never understood how she got out of that. I really, when I think back, she was barely ever any on camera. I don't know how she got out of it.
I don't either. Somehow, I don't know, but she could get out of anything.
She could.
Morgan could. She had a way about her. There's anything she wants to do.
She would talk her way out of it, and I would run.
I was thinking about how you kids are all different, and I've shared this before with people. Morgan could get by with about anything. She had that gift about her to read the room, and I think that jumped over. I don't think that Caleb is like that, but John Colson.
That's what I think too. Like, that's one of my questions I was going to ask you was about, like, you had 3 kids, you have 3 grandsons now. Like, how do they? Somebody's got to match with somebody, and every time I think about it, I think like Kelsey and Morgan, they match. Like,
I think that's why they love each other.
It's going to explain why they're doing something bad and why it's okay. It's okay if I do this. Just trust me. Like, and eventually you give in. You're like, it's fine. I don't even care anymore. Like,
we always did with her. We would just give in and give up, and we just, and I think about that, and I don't know, when I look at them, I think that really Carter has more of Colson.
He has a Colson vibe of like, I'm gonna let it roll.
Okay. My wife Janice coming in here. What I hate is people that you hire that try to run the situation.
That's what happens when you hire family.
Especially
when it's your wife.
We have a list of questions, but we can do what we want.
I got one of mine in just now, though. You were answering it. Caleb. Who's Caleb? Who would Caleb be?
Caleb, I really don't know.
See, that's what I was trying to think of. Caleb is very much a peacemaker in a lot of ways. Like, if things are getting crazy, Caleb's not going to get crazy with
and everybody
him.
loves him. Now, he's got a dose of Colson.
He does. See, that's what I couldn't decide between him and Carter.
He's got a dose of Colson. He really does. And, Carter's got so much of Andrew as far as the analytical point.
He does.
And, now Caleb's got that laid back. And everybody that meets him loves him. When you go to Ohio, people love Caleb, love my grandson.
Mellow. But you know what an experience is where you see the Morgan and Caleb is if you get Caleb and Andrew in the car and directions or where to park, all of a sudden Caleb's Morgan. Caleb turns into Morgan. He knows where to go, and you've got to do what he's telling you. Like, very much so.
When you think back on your childhood, okay, when you think about moments that stand out to you, what are some things that sort of stand out that you lean toward?
I have, there's like stand out in funny family memory ways or like things like that. Like, memory-wise, you always did stuff with, it wasn't like we went on vacations like crazy. We went on big vacations. That was always a thing. But it was always those little weird moments. You woke us, and no one should do this. This is not advised. And I think I actually read on the news somebody got hurt recently doing this. But you woke us up in the middle of the night, one snowstorm, to hook the sled to the back of the Explorer and pulled us down the road. That was one of those things that I look back on. I'm like, how did he talk Mom into doing it, first of all? How did she not stop us? You know what I mean? But it was just one freak little thing that's just a memory of that I've kind of passed on. Like, do the random crazy things on a random day because that's what makes the memory. You know, like do it while you feel like it.
I remember that night. I remember we
I remember the
up and down
bumper.
Hill Street, we got, and then I put more. I think I let Morgan drive some, so I got back and rode.
Yeah, because you had to ride with me.
Yeah, I got back there and rode.
Because you wouldn't.
some.
That was that. Now, as safety protocols, y'all wouldn't let Morgan or Colson ride with me on the sled.
Right.
You had to ride with me on the sled. So Morgan drove the car.
Yeah.
Where was Mother? Where was she
I
at?
don't know where
That's
she
what I don't
was.
remember in my brain. Was she at the house? Was she like, I'm just going to pretend it's not happening? Where was Mom?
She was inside putting your towels in the dryer so they would be warm.
And our clothes in front of the heater.
Everything be out to be warm when you kids got
We
back
had our
in.
Walmart bag, our bread bags on our feet so we would get wet. Yeah, that was one of the main ones.
Are there any near-death experiences that stand out?
That was probably one.
You wasn't too much near death with that.
No, there's probably a lot near. I remember you crushed my hand in the church door. I remember that one. We were at church early, which was a big deal if we got to go to church with you, because usually we weren't allowed to ride to church with you because we would drive you crazy, and you were trying to be.
I couldn't be spiritual when you kids
and we
with
would
me.
bring out the devil.
I always rode alone.
I got to go with you, and everything was smooth until we got in the door and you shut it. You shut my hand in the car door too.
But I've done it several times.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. That just came back like a trauma.
But that wasn't, that wasn't.
We
really
were going
my
down
fault.
the road.
That wasn't my fault.
And the seatbelt was stuck in the car, in the door. And I told you, and you reached back to open it for me so I could get my seatbelt out.
Which is hard to do.
It was hard to do, okay, but I wasn't fully out yet. And you shut the door back on my hand, and I'm screaming. You're driving down the road. What's wrong? My hand is in the car, Father. That's what's wrong. I'm surprised I have fingers. They're all here.
Right. But I had to reach back.
I mean, it wasn't
That wasn't easy to do.
Why couldn't I
get the
open
door.
it
I
with
don't
my other
know.
hand?
I don't know. I don't understand.
I don't understand that one
But
either.
I remember that as being a traumatic experience.
I mean, yeah, that was tricky. Let's see.
Yeah, there were several things like that.
There's several. I've been thrown from many ponies, but that
Right.
usually wasn't your fault. That was
No.
usually Morgan's.
Right.
You did come and try to round up the pony because it had my saddle on it once that I got thrown,
Yeah.
and this pony took off with my saddle. I mean, I feel like there's probably a lot of those. One that was funny of where you were having to be Mr. Mom was when I was cheering, and Mom and Morgan were out of town. I think it was like on a women's conference or something like that, and you were in charge of getting me to the football game. And we got there, and I didn't have the right shoes on to start off with. I had to wear them anyways, and I forgot my pom-poms. And I told you had to go back to the house and get my pom-poms, and you were like, "Where are they?" And I said, "They're in the freezer." And anyone who cheers knows that you put them in the
Makes
freezer so
sense.
they're extra scrunchy and puffy. And I remember your face when I was like, "They're in the freezer," up to the stands, and you were like, and she's lost it, But you got them. You got the freezer pom-poms. I mean.
As you kids, when you grew older too, and I had to babysit, there was a season that I had to babysit in
That whole
life.
series was a near-death
It was
experience.
that was a hard thing to do. I mean, for me to babysit, your mom was working some and I was ministering some, and it was really hard to babysit. I remember hiring one babysitter that was had some challenges, and I would have hired Charles Manson.
I don't think that was me, though. That was Morgan. That might explain her.
And I come home, your mom come home, and she had all the blinds and curtains were shut, and they were sitting in the middle of the floor she was sitting in the middle of the floor with the kids in the dark, and I said, I think she's okay.
Just have a quiet time, think with your thoughts.
As long as I don't have to watch them.
I would think I was either not there or I was too young. It was just Colson and Morgan, because that one didn't. You may need to look into their life with that one.
I think about the seasons that we went through, and different with all of you all, but with it was all dramatic with Morgan, where she was the firstborn, and I didn't really know what to do with all that mess, and especially having a girl. I mean, first thing I said to Dr. Olinger is, what am I going to do with a girl?
That's what I thought. Whenever I was pregnant with Carter, I was just like, be a boy, be a boy, be a boy.
And then Colson wasn't too bad when we brought him home, but by the time we had you, I was used to it.
That's what I was thinking today, differences, because Carter's an only child. So there's different things I do parenting him without even thinking of it. He's an only child, so I just do. And I was thinking about how I was raised, and I was like, well, Mom and Dad were kind of like that with me, because I kind of got the only child treatment there towards the end, because I was younger.
Right.
Y'all were sort of over it. So we were like buddies, we're parents, but I remember I wanted to do stuff with you and Mom and Dad. That's what we did.
Yeah, it was a little different. They were getting older, and the other kids didn't really want anything to do with it.
No, and I was kind of the only one for a brief minute there. So I kind of got the only child vibe anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
I think one of the things too, though, You were a little yappy.
Yeah,
when
just a
you're
little bit.
when you smiled. I think because you were sort of short, and little. And,
Little man
and
syndrome.
I'm thinking that because you were bossy with the other kids, so you would line them up in the yard and tell them what to do. And here you were, a little old tiny thing, and you would be out in the yard giving them the what's for. And
well, everyone was older than me. Everyone was bigger than me.
Right.
Think about all our friends in the neighborhood. All of them were older than me. And then I was tiny for what I was anyways.
Yeah.
I had to be seen. I had to do something.
Yeah.
I wasn't born to be a wallflower.
I remember when we had you at home and you were there in the yard and your mom had one of those square things that
Little
she
playpen, pack and
kept
play.
outside. Yeah. So you were in it, and then all of a sudden your mom come around. And the other kids were piled in it, and it was all sagging in the bottom. Jessica Gillespie and Brittany and all of them were piled inside there with you in this playpen, and it was sagging. You kids, you broke the bottom out of it.
Yeah.
Now, can you imagine?
I probably told them all, get in. I can't be out there to play, so you have to get in here and play with me.
Think about that time though, and that season in life.
Yeah.
That was different. All the kids were there playing together, and y'all would play together all day long.
Every day.
And I don't know, have you seen that in your life?
I mean, it's so different too, because you can look at it as like, oh, they don't do it anymore, but like there is no kids on our street.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Carter's the only kid on our street, like all the way down has children, but they're very young and they're little girls. So you know what I mean? That's it. There's not really a lot of kids on the street.
Right.
So I think it's that too. We were blessed. Like our neighborhood was the perfect mixture of kids. We had them right next to us, right up the road. Like we had the perfect setup for that. I don't know if there's that many setups for that. I feel like we may have been rare, but it was. Kids did go and play more than they do now.
I wonder if it's because, I don't know if it's because of where we're spread out now or what the reasoning is behind it. But when you think about how there's a difference there as far as, and maybe there's some places where the kids are all playing on different blocks and neighborhoods. I don't know. Maybe they're there, but
proximity.
But you don't know memories are memories when you're making them.
Yeah.
I've said that before. So those memories that you had growing up, and you think about the other kids around you and the things you got to do and go play, and that was just I guess that to me is a highlight of looking back, seeing you kids play.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was that cool when it was happening.
When it was happening. So you didn't know whenever you souped up our Hot Wheels car, or what was it called? It wasn't a Hot Wheels.
No,
what was
it was a little
that
electric
you souped
car.
up the battery that we were going to shoot to the moon.
Well, this would have done. That little old battery made no sense to me.
It was a little Barbie Jeep or something.
In that
wasn't
car.
it?
It was a little four-wheel Jeep. It was a little, and I said, if I put a die-hard car battery in this, that'll really be something. And probably could have got by with that, but I had to wire out the gas pedal because you couldn't use the gas pedal because it burned it up. So I put a switch in it. And I remember flipping that. You could flip that switch, and them wheels would just spin.
To the moon. So that would be one of those near-death experiences. We might throw that in there. Yeah, that was probably it.
And then the time I brought a three-wheeler home. I don't know if you remember that. I bought a three-wheeler at a yard sale down at the church down there. It was a regular three-wheeler, which they outlawed eventually. And I brought it to the house, and I said, the kids will have fun with this. It was a gas-powered little Honda three-wheeler. Yeah. And so I don't know if it was one of y'all got on it, but anyway, you took off on it and you hit the side of the house and it climbed right up the side of the house and flipped backwards. And your mom come out there and made me go back down there and take it back.
I mean, that seems. Did you get your money back?
Yes.
Oh,
and it was very embarrassing.
So you got the memory and your money back. You needed it just for a minute for the memory, and then you were done.
It was very embarrassing. I had to go back and told that man my wife said brings this back and get my money back.
My wife said I couldn't have this.
I did. And he really didn't want to, and I said, but you don't understand.
Could have died.
I've got to give it back. I got to have my money back because
That brings me, they told us to ask questions. That brings me to one of mine. What did you get in trouble for the worst when you were a kid? What was the worst time you got in trouble?
Oh, skipping school.
I knew it was going to be.
I skipped school one time, and there's other things that I've done, but not real bad stuff. But I skipped school. I remember one time that my mom and dad didn't know it, but I was with some boys. Jim Shelton and Beavers, Ricky Beavers and some of them, but they had cigarettes, okay? So they gave me a cigarette, and I said, whoa. So I didn't want to smoke it, but I put it behind my ear.
You didn't want to, be cool.
I started walking down the railroad tracks on my way home. But first thing I knew is I'd go to hell for smoking that cigarette. Yeah. And if my mom and dad found out, I would go to hell before hell.
It's going to be worse than hell.
So I dug a hole in the ground. Okay, I took me
grow
a
a
piece of
cigarette.
wood right beside the railroad tracks, and I dug a hole and I put it in the ground and covered it up. Then I laid a big rock on top of it because I knew Jesus couldn't see it.
No,
if it had
not
that
under the
rock on
rock.
it, because I knew I would get in trouble. But when I skipped school, I thought, I don't know why I skipped school, but anyway, I skipped, and Jim Shelton and I went in an old house up on the hill, and we were playing cards till we got bored. And then it got up around lunchtime, and we were hungry. We got hungry, and we said, well, we'll sneak back down to the house and get us something to eat. Now, meanwhile, the school had called. My parents were crying. They were all, Mom was mad, and everybody was upset, thought maybe we'd been kidnapped. And so when I got down the house and I opened the door, there was my dad, my grandpa Shelton, and my mom.
He had an intervention.
My dad had these switches that were just a step below a telephone pole. And he took to whipping me with that. And, I mean, my dad, too, when he whipped somebody, he whipped you.
I can't believe it.
I landed on the table, okay, up on the table, and he's whipping me, man. He's whipping the fire out of me, okay? And so then it's after lunch. He goes and makes me put a pair of shorts on and takes me back to Excelsior to school. And they only got like an hour left.
I feel I probably would have. Be like, you know what? No, you're still going to go.
There I am, beat up, look like I've been in a bar fight.
Did you skip school again
No.
after that?
And he told me, these were his words. He said, you do not have to go to school when you don't want to. You just tell us because we don't want to be worried about you.
And so that's what happened afterwards, right?
So
that's what happened on Monday and Fridays. Is that what happened?
I didn't go to school on Monday and Friday a lot. Okay, I never. If they
You
had,
were ahead of the curve on that. Let's do a 4-day work. You were like, you know what? Better 3.
I figured 4 days is
Yeah.
enough for the amount of education I was getting. And unless there was something really special on those days, I didn't go. I remember one time when I got to high school, same rule. When I got to high school, and Mr. Holbrook, who was assistant something or other, but he wrote this note out. They showed on this note it had all the times my grandmother died and all these things, and because they kept a log of that. Okay,
Was that your excuse?
They kept a log of my excuses. So he
How many grandmothers do you have, son?
I had all this stuff.
How many dogs?
So he said, you got to take this home and get your parent to sign it. So I took it home, and my dad went through some times he was aggressive, and my dad tore it up.
That's the story I remember.
So, and I've got a copy of it somewhere. He tore that up in little pieces and said what I could tell Mr. Holbrook to do with it. And I thought, gosh, if I tell him that, I'm going to be in trouble. And so I got the tape and taped it all back together. And I got a picture of it taped back together.
I've never seen this.
And I took it. I've got it.
I've heard the story. I've never seen the paper,
Oh,
though.
it was terrible. It had all the stuff on it, all the writings on it why I wasn't at school. And I took it back to Mr. Holbrook and gave it back to him. And they never really, in school, I used to get a beating in school too. It was like they gave you paddlings.
I feel like oh, really?
And I don't know why.
Oh, did you get paddled? Did you have to look at a paddle?
Yeah, you just looked at
That's
one.
because I was like 4 pounds.
Yeah.
They really couldn't spank me. It would have been a problem,
Right.
okay? I just got in trouble where they would put the paddle in front of me,
Right.
and I had to stare at it.
Yeah.
That's what I had to do. I memorized, that's another thing. Your names were signed on it. If you'd been spanked by the paddle at school,
Right.
your names were signed on it. So I memorized the names and everything. Like, I just had to stare at the paddle, but
This paddle, Mr. Musser, he was a big guy. Big guy. He was the assistant principal. Mr. Turner was the principal. Mr. Musser was a very big man, and I barely weighed 1.25 when I was in school anyway.
Yeah,
I'm
you were
twice a
scrawny for
man
a long
now.
time.
But the paddle he used on you, they had holes drilled in it, so it would whoop you in the rear end, and it would just sort of give
Wouldn't drag.
give you a vacuum when it hit you.